Hey everyone, it's Michael from Fire and Brilliance, and today's episode we'll be going over the 4Cs, okay? So we're actually breaking it up into 4 different parts. So this week specifically, we'll be breaking into one of the 4Cs, and I've done very similar videos in the past, but I really want to do a breakdown this time so you can truly have a comparison, okay? So one of the 4Cs, which is probably the main one that most people usually talk about or most people know about, is the carat weight, right? So I want to be able to compare it to different measurements or different aspects or different qualities of a gemstone other than the carat weight alone. Okay, so for this specific episode, we'll be going over, does the size matter? So in other words, the carats versus the millimeters, and I'm going to get right into it. Carats versus millimeters. This is part 1 of Does Size Matter, because we're going to be comparing over the next 4 weeks on carat weight versus the other 4Cs. Now, if you don't know what the 4Cs are, it's clarity, carat, cut, and color, okay? When people are actually talking about carat weight, usually when they buy jewelry or gemstones, they usually only care about the carat weight. So you probably heard of people saying, oh, I have a 1 carat, oh, I want a 2 carat, oh, I want a 3 carat or 4 carats or 5 carats or what have you. That's what most people actually know, right? There are other 3 C's is the clarity, the color, as well as the cut, okay? So with the millimeters, that's somewhat into the cut. It's not the exact specifications of the cut, but I want to go over today specifically what's the difference between the carats versus the millimeter, because it's extremely important that people know this. So what most people actually think about when they think about carats is they actually think about the size. That's somewhat true, but not exactly. A carat is actually a measurement of weight. Okay, so gemstones are usually measured by carats when you're referring to weight. So when you're actually weighing it, how many carats is that specific gemstone, regardless if it's a moissanite, a diamond, a ruby, sapphire, or whatnot. It's measured in carat weight. Now, what is the millimeter? A millimeter is a measurement of length or width, or in other words, the distance from A to B, right? So, for a gemstone, for a round shape rather of a gemstone, you'll measure it from the diameter, so from point A to point B, right across. Okay, from each other, all right? So that you're basically measuring the diameter of a gemstone. That's the millimeter size. Now, so why is this important? Why is it important to actually consider the millimeters versus the carat weight? It's extremely important if you're a person that wants it to look visually big, right? Because it could weigh more. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to look bigger. Okay, I'm going to get into it right here. So from the side view, all right? So in other words, all 3 of these stones can weigh approximately at 1 carat. All right, so, but then you notice that all 3 stones are slightly different. This one may be cut a little more proportionately. So in other words, in the jewelry industry, it may be called the excellent cut. Okay, so when it's cut very proportionally, the light behavior and you know, basically the reflection of light, it sparkles really nicely. But I'll go into that in a different episode. Okay, so in other words, if it was cut very proportionately based on specific parameters, it may weigh as a 1 carat. So in other words, it'll look nice on top as well as on the sides. Now, for this specific stone, as you can see here, it's longer, right, from top down or north to south, but the width of the stone is skinnier, right? So if you think about it from a top view, it will look smaller. So even though it's 1 carat, the millimeter or the diameter or the length of the diameter from point A to point B is actually smaller. So visually, it actually looks smaller even though it weighs approximately the same. And then the third example is this one is wider, however, it's also shorter. Okay? So this one's wider and it's shorter, it's 1 carat. So it actually looks a lot bigger from the top looking down. But then from the side view, it's actually shorter. All right, so in other words, this is more proportionate. That one is tall and skinny, and this one is, basically short and wider. Right. So, and at the end of the day, it goes back to my point: carats versus millimeters. Right. All of these are at 1 carat, or it weighs at approximately 1 carat. But from a visual perspective, which one looks bigger? Right. So, if you are the type of person that is trying to find a stone that looks the biggest, then go with the millimeter size. right? Even though the carat weight is the same. And sometimes you'll find, for example, a 1.8 carat diamond will actually look just as visually big as a 2 carat diamond because of the way it's cut. It's just cut wider and shorter as opposed to longer and skinnier, right? So that's something that you definitely want to consider because there's a huge difference if you want to set your jewelry, you want your stone, center stone, your rock, basically you want to see that stone at a certain size, then always consider the millimeters rather than just the carats alone. A lot of people get confused by that. It's actually a misconception that the higher the carats, the larger the carats, or in other words, the larger the weight, the higher the size of that weight, the carat size that is actually bigger. Yes, it's true, it's bigger, but it might be actually bigger in terms of the length as opposed to the width, right? And if you're looking at jewelry, you're looking from the top down, or you're looking at a ring, you're looking from the top down, so you want that diameter to be larger, so therefore you should consider millimeters, and that's a misconception of just going with carat weights alone, okay? So that goes to my next point, is the breakdown, right? So the question that you want to ask yourself is which weighs more versus which looks or appears larger? What are you going for, right? What are you at the end of the day going for? Are you going for the weight? Or are you going for the appearance? Most people that wear jewelry, they're actually going for the appearance. They're going for the aesthetics. They're going for that larger look. But the confusing part, again, is that they're actually going off of carats rather than millimeters. So I hope I brought some value to you there. Definitely leave a comment below if you want some clarity, if you want some for me to clarify on something. I hope that I was able to really kind of break it down in much more detail than I normally do. So hopefully this brings some value to you when you do actually make that purchase, when you actually are ready to make that purchase of jewelry, the gemstone on your ring, the gemstone on your pendant, your engagement ring. Then hopefully this brought a lot of value to you. Okay, so with that being said, if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, our goal here again is to hit 10,000 subs by the end of the year. It's already halfway. Okay, so we're not quite there yet, but if you've been following our content, you really see that we bring value to you. I really hope that you do subscribe to the channel. We're working very hard here to bring a lot of value to you, and definitely leave a comment again if you want to know something. We do make a list of items that we actually, on subjects that we will go over, or we do entertain these subjects, and hopefully we'll be able to actually make a video just for you. Okay, so with that being said, I appreciate your time, and thanks again from the Fire Brilliance team, and goodbye.